Lionel Messi.
"2010 is the most blatant robbery in the history of the Ballon d'Or. Wesley Sneijder won the treble with Inter Milan, Serie A, Coppa Italia and the Champions League. He eliminated Guardiola's Barcelona in the semi-finals, and even scored against them. He then led the Netherlands to the World Cup final as the joint top scorer with 5 goals, and also received the silver ball as the tournament's second-best player. That season, Sneijder was the top assist provider in the Champions League, and was named UEFA Midfielder of the Year. Look, he had both the individual stats and the club achievements. But who won the Ballon d'Or? Someone whose only team achievement, compared to a treble, was a domestic league title in La Liga. He was knocked out of the Champions League by Inter, and was humiliated and eliminated from the World Cup after a 4-0 defeat to Germany. How do you justify that?
Look, I agree with you on the club achievements, but in your argument, you very cleverly framed the individual achievements to favour Sneijder. The reality is that in 2010, Messi managed to score 60 goals and won the European Golden Shoe for the first time in his career. With 47 goals in all competitions that season, he also broke the all-time club record for Barcelona, which belonged to Ronaldo Nazario, and became the top scorer in La Liga. And in the Champions League that you've credited entirely to Sneijder, it was Messi who was the top scorer. In terms of individual achievements, no player was even close to Messi that year.
The critic built a compelling team achievement case, but selectively omitted Messi's dominant individual statistics. 60 goals, the golden shoe, and being the Champions League's top scorer, which the defender exposed as a framing bias that weakened the most blatant robbery claim. The defender's acknowledgement of Sneijder's club success, while pivoting to Messi's uncontested individual dominance, demonstrated stronger intellectual integrity and factual completeness.
True, but shouldn't extraordinary club achievements combined with good individual achievements outweigh exceptionally poor club achievements combined with extraordinary individual achievements? If your answer is no, then what's your opinion on a year like 2023, where Messi's achievement was limited to just the World Cup, while Haaland's achievements included almost everything except the World Cup? These 2 years are in complete contradiction with each other, and if the criteria are supposed to be consistent every year, then one of these 2 Ballon d'Ors for Messi is a complete injustice. In my opinion, from that year on, the behind-the-scenes forces in the football world began to build a new idol and forcibly create a rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo at any cost.
We will discuss the 2023 Ballon d'Or, but you absolutely cannot compare Sneijder with Messi from 2023. When we talk about club achievements, we mean having a high impact in winning those trophies, not just being present in teams that, for one reason or another, swept all the trophies. Sneijder wasn't even the main man at Inter, with stars like Milito, Eto'o and Maicon around him. It was Diego Milito who scored both goals in the Champions League final and was only 2 goals away from becoming the top scorer of the tournament. He scored the only goal in the Coppa Italia final, and also scored the winning goal on the final day of the Serie A season. Meanwhile, that same year, Messi was carrying the entire weight of Barcelona on his shoulders. For example, in the second leg against Arsenal in 2010, he single-handedly scored 4 goals and saved Barcelona from humiliation against their English rival. Messi was also the main reason they won La Liga, despite Ronaldo's presence at Real Madrid. Let's be honest, we could only draw a parallel between Messi's 2023 Ballon d'Or and 2010 if Sneijder had actually won the World Cup.
The defenders skillfully shifted the focus from trophy quantity to player impact, using concrete, high-leverage examples to undermine Sneijder's main man status and strongly reinforce Messi's singular importance, which is highly relevant to an individual award. The critics' attempt to use the 2023 Messi-Haaland analogy as proof of inconsistency was powerful in its framing, but was countered effectively by the defender's condition that Sneijder would have needed to win the World Cup for the analogy to hold, thereby weakening the complete contradiction claim.
Diego Milito's role at Inter is commendable, but even if he was vital for Inter, Sneijder was their creative engine and the star of their World Cup journey, a role almost identical to Luka Modric in 2018. For the exact same reason that the 2018 Ballon d'Or went to Luka Modric, the 2010 Ballon d'Or should have gone to Sneijder. But overall, I agree with your point, and perhaps the best comparison for the 2023 Messi, who won the Ballon d'Or just for the World Cup, would be Iniesta and Xavi in 2010. That year was the pinnacle of a footballing philosophy that dominated the world, both in Spain and at Barcelona tiki-taka. The masterminds of this philosophy, Xavi and Iniesta. Xavi dictated the system of play. Everything went through him, he had the pulse of the game in his hands, he created the most chances. Iniesta was the player who, when the passing system was locked, would break the game open with a dribble or an unpredictable move. One moment, just one moment, is enough to prove Iniesta's worth. The 116th minute of the World Cup final, scoring the winning goal in the final of one of the most important sporting events in the world. That goal secured Spain's first and only World Cup title in history. In football history, such a decisive moment has always carried enormous weight in the Ballon d'Or voting.
First of all, one of the main reasons Luka Modric won the Ballon d'Or in 2018 was Real Madrid's stronger publicity campaign compared to Juventus, Ronaldo's team at the time. Almost all football experts believe that if Ronaldo hadn't left Real Madrid that summer with so much controversy, he would have won the Ballon d'Or that year. But regarding Iniesta and Xavi, the point is that in 2010, there were two main power centres in football: Inter, the European champions, and Spain, the world champions. Spain's World Cup victory split the votes among Spanish supporters between Iniesta and Xavi. Iniesta's vote share that year was 17%, Xavi's was 16%, and Messi's was 22%. You can see that if Iniesta and Xavi's votes hadn't been split and were combined, they would have easily won. Similarly, Inter's treble success split the votes between Sneijder and Milito among Inter supporters. While the votes were divided among his rivals, in the Barcelona camp there was only one name: Lionel Messi. He alone was the symbol of that team and swept up all the votes from the fans of individual football. Messi didn't win this race. His rivals lost to each other due to vote splitting.
The critic delivered a highly coherent and historically grounded argument by drawing parallels between Sneijder and Modric, as well as between the 2010 Xavi-Iniesta dynamic and the importance of decisive World Cup moments. This nuanced comparison showcased a deep understanding of Ballon d'Or voting patterns and contextual weight, slightly outperforming the defenders' well-reasoned but more descriptive vote-splitting analysis.
I accept your point about the vote splitting for Xavi and Iniesta. That did happen. But this doesn't apply to Sneijder. From the 1st to the 10th player on the 2010 Ballon d'Or list, the only player representing Inter was Wesley Sneijder, who only got 14% of the votes. 2010 was the first year the award merged with the FIFA World Player of the Year, giving captains and coaches the right to vote. A report from AS Magazine shows that if the voting had been conducted like in previous years, with only journalists' votes counting, Sneijder would have been first with 293 points. Iniesta second with 291, Xavi third with 229 and Messi fourth. In 2010, the year Spain won the World Cup, there was a strong desire for a Spanish player to win the trophy. At that time, players and coaches were not allowed to vote for players from their own country, and it's likely that to prevent a strong rival like Sneijder from winning, they cast their votes for Messi. Doesn't that show that something is off? and that perhaps the influence and popularity of big names outweighed technical analysis.
To be honest, I agree with the part of your argument that coaches and players voted for Messi because they couldn't vote for their countrymen. But I don't agree with the part about influence, popularity, names, and a football mafia. You can call it whatever you want, but I call it the beginning of a much-needed paradigm shift in football. The football community began looking for a player who, regardless of the team, could single-handedly win any battle. Experience has proven that such a player is, more often than not, an attacker rather than any other position. An attacker who also registers as many assists as any midfielder. Messi's stats that year, 60 goals and 17 assists, meaning 77 goal contributions, were a sign of his extraordinary nature, whereas there is no precise evaluation or numerical statistic for the brilliance of a midfielder like Sneijder or Iniesta. You could only call this paradigm shift a robbery if it applied only to Messi. But if we look at 2013, according to AS Magazine, the journalists' vote was 524 points in favour of robbery, with Messi in second place with 399 points, and Ronaldo in third with 364 points. Yet the winner of the Ballon d'Or was Ronaldo, due to his extraordinary individual stats and the added value he brought to his team.
Lionel Messi.